All right, class, today we're going to be talking about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We're going to be talking about who he was and the importance he serves within our history. So first, we're going to create a brainstorm cloud of the things that we may already know. Some students may give me some things such as the I Have a Dream speech, or the fact that Martin Luther King fought for freedom, or that he fought for equality. We would also discuss some of our new vocabulary that we will be learning, which could include importance, infer, admire, convince, contribute, protest, and segregation. We will then move on to reading the book, Who Was Martin Luther King Jr.? We would read this as a class to give students a little bit of background of who Martin Luther King Jr. was and the things that made him an important historical figure. Once we complete our reading, we will discuss as a class some of the things that we learned, and students would write their own group notes. Therefore, students would be writing their own notes, but we would be discussing it as a group. Once we finish that, we will start our chair partner work, where students will be given an opportunity to work with their chair partner, which would be the student that sits next to them, or they would also be given the opportunity to work individually if that's what they chose to do. It would be more of their choice just to help them be able to work in a situation that is more comfortable for them. So students will tie in our English/reading into our social studies lesson by completing their character trait activity, which is on the left, as well as their Martin Luther King Jr. inferring page, which would be on the right. So first, students would start with the character traits of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We would take what we normally use in our reading, and we would use Martin Luther King Jr. as our character, and in the 6 bubbles that surround it, we would fill in some character traits of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. After students finished that, we would move on to what did he mean by that, inferring with Dr. King. In this activity, students would cut the left page, and this is going to be the quotes that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, and then the ones below it are the inferences, basically meaning what he actually meant. So on the page on the far right, this is on the left column would be where they would glue in their Dr. King quotes, and on the right is where they would glue in the inference that matches the quote. Students will also be given an illustration book. They will be given the opportunity to come to me with a small group, and we will construct their Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. book as a small group. And while we are in small groups, they will be able to answer or ask any questions that they have. We will review any vocabulary that they may be struggling with, and we may just give a little bit of more background, a little bit of a review of what we've learned in class today. And while students are being called up to me in my small group, students are to complete the 2 activities that were given to them at their desk with their chair partner or individually. Once all groups have visited with me and completed their at-desk activities, we will review as a whole group. So we will review both activities, the character trait and the inference sheet as a group, to give students the opportunity to ask any questions or check their work and make sure that they're understanding the lesson and what was presented to them. We will conclude our lesson of the day with a Brain Pop Jr. video of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that summarizes his life and what he accomplished during his lifetime. It is a little bit of a lengthy video, so I will not be playing it today because I think total, yeah, it's 6 minutes, but it is a very good video for younger classrooms. It kind of sums up in a good way what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. accomplished and the things that he fought for in his lifetime. So students will be formally assessed in the form of an exit slip. The exit slip, they will have to fill out 2 things that they learned today in the lesson, any 2 things. If necessary, students will be given the opportunity, if they just cannot think of one more thing, they will be able to look back at their notes from the day or some of their quotes, some of their inferencings, or even the character traits that they learned about Dr. Martin Luther King. We will extend the lesson into the next day by continuing our illustration book that we didn't get to complete the first day, and we will also be completing our own We All Love in the Same Color hallway display. So each student will be able to trace their hand and on any piece of paper, any piece of construction paper that they choose, whatever color they choose, we'll cut it out and we'll glue it to the big heart poster board that we will create, and all students will sign the heart that says We All Love in the Same Color.